My name's Philippa Thacker. I'm one of 5 senior tea buyers in the commodities department at our Twining & Company. I've worked here for the past 14 years. I remember my first day very distinctly. It was on the 1st of March 1995. I was the first woman to join the tea buying or commodities department at Twinings, much to the delight of the then HR director. We were a small group then. There were only about 6 buyers at the time, covering many regions of the tea buying world, and now we've grown to a 13-strong department with many different facets to cover the ever-increasing demands on our tea buying and blending skills. In layman's terms, I'm basically a tea taster. We get through about 300 cups of tea a day in our department, in the sale room where I'm sitting now. We have a group of ladies who put on the tea batches for us, and we're tasting constantly, whether that be samples which have come in from our agents overseas, or whether it be QC samples, quality control samples, that we're tasting from the various Twinings factories around the world. We estimate to get through about 2,000 cups of tea per week, which is not a small amount by any means, but we do divide the tasting between us. Normally we would taste black, and then following that we would taste with milk. Tasting black helps us to pick up any contaminations and to taste the genuine flavour of the teas that we're producing. The addition of milk helps us to pick out the colour and the brightness of the tea. It's important for Twinings as a specialty tea company to have continuity throughout the buying and blending process, which is why each buyer is then responsible for the buying and blending of a particular region's teas. Tea can vary quite widely from one season to the next. It also can fluctuate on a daily basis, depending on the ambient conditions and the weather in any given period. For example, a tea made on 2 consecutive days in Dimbula region of Sri Lanka could have a slightly different taste profile, and it's our job to be able to pick out those different qualities and also to buy at an optimum time, because in certain areas, for example with first flush Darjeeling, we only have a matter of 2 to 3 weeks to buy an entire year's worth of our requirement. So being able to taste and grade and pick out the finest quality teas is essential, which is obviously part of our job and our remit. In choosing a tea for Twinings stocks, there are many things that we need to look out for. We have to take into account the gradings that we've given the teas, the size of the leaf of the tea. Obviously we can't put large leaf teas into tea bags and vice versa. We have to look at the taste delivery, the leaf appearance, many different factors, including the moisture content of the dry leaf. If a leaf is too high in moisture, it won't keep well. We also have to look at plant protection agents, which include things like pesticides and insecticides. There are very strict EU laws governing the presence of these on any foodstuff. So these are all rigorous checks that we have to undertake before we finally proceed with purchasing a tea. We have about 200 different what we call stock groups, and stock groups are essentially ingredients in a tea blend, which you could liken to a recipe, a cake recipe for instance. Each of the stock groups has its own characteristics, its own brightness, colour, taste profile, leaf size. So there's all sorts of things that we would be looking out for. When we purchase against these stock groups, we're ideally trying to hold the stocks at an optimum level so that we aren't just sitting on stocks that are too long. We buy the teas in and check constantly for the right quality and profile for each of these stock groups. Once we've received a tea into the UK, we have a landed sample drawn on arrival at the docks. We taste this and grade it, and those comments are then added to our computer screen against the relevant line of tea that we've bought. So then we have access to these comments when we come to do the blending. The blending process is quite an art form. Obviously we have to be sure that we are producing consistent quality throughout the year. And with many tea producing countries, there are peaks and troughs in quality throughout the year. So we have to take these into account when we're blending in order to even the blend out. Typically on a Monday morning we receive indents in from the Twinings factories around the world, and these indents are basically requirements of blends that they need over the forthcoming couple of weeks, which we then blend for them according to the stocks of tea that we have on our books. Following this, we make up a small hand blend once we've actually blended the tea on the computer screen. This then is tasted against a given standard, and if this passes, then the tea is brought in to the various factories. It's mustered and passed for actual physical blending. Once the blend has been physically blended in the factories, again we see another QC sample, and we will taste that against our hand blend just to ensure that the quality is consistent throughout. If that's okay, if the blend outturn sample has passed, we will then release the blend for packing in the packing hall. And similarly, once the tea has been packed into whichever packaging it's going into, be it tea bags or tins or cartons, we will then get another sample of packed product to ensure that that is up to standard before it then leaves any of our factories. The name of the game for us is the quality of the tea. We are purveyors of quality teas, and we take our job very seriously and with great passion.